Hey everyone, I'm Emily. It was late spring, and the air was thick with the anticipation of graduation. I was preparing for one of the most significant moments of my life, delivering the valedictorian speech. But little did I know, my biggest challenge wouldn't be the speech itself or the crowd. It was my grandmother, Helen. Living with Helen was no easy feat. She had a sharp tongue and a knack for making me feel small. My mom, on the other hand, was the complete opposite, always there with a comforting hug and words of encouragement. She was my rock. As for Dad, he stayed mostly in the background, silently observing the family dynamics unfold. One afternoon, I sat at my desk, surrounded by drafts of my speech. I could hear Helen's voice drifting up from downstairs, her words laced with that familiar edge. Always the star, isn't she? I wonder if all that praise will go to her head. I rolled my eyes and tried to block her out, focusing on what mattered. This speech was my moment. Years of hard work had led to this, and I wasn't going to let her bring me down. My friends were excited, my teachers proud, and I had big plans for college. But as I fine-tuned my words, a part of me dreaded the inevitable commentary from Helen. Just days before graduation, as I practiced my speech in the living room, she wandered in, her gaze critical. "That's quite an ambitious tone, don't you think? Maybe a bit much," she remarked, her voice dripping with condescension. I clenched my fists, forcing myself to stay calm. "This speech is important to me, Grandma. It's about my future." Helen scoffed, waving her hand dismissively. "Ah, the future. Just remember, pride comes before a fall." Frustrated but determined, I kept refining my speech. Mom, as always, was my biggest supporter. Over dinner, she gave me a reassuring smile. "You're going to be amazing, Emily. Don't let anyone's doubts, especially not family, dim your light." Her words comforted me, but as I lay in bed that night, my mind raced. This wasn't just about the speech or the applause, it was about proving something to myself and to Helen. I needed to show her that my achievements were worth celebrating, no matter what she thought. As graduation day approached, the tension in the house grew thicker. Helen's comments became more frequent, her bitterness casting a shadow over everything. But I stayed focused on what lay ahead, my moment on stage, where I would stand as not just a student, but a young woman ready to face the world. The morning of graduation arrived, sunny and clear, the perfect day for what should have been one of the best moments of my life. I adjusted my gown and cap, catching my mom's proud smile from the front row. "You've got this, Emily," she mouthed, her camera poised and ready. The ceremony began with speeches from the principal and a few teachers. My heart raced as my turn approached. With a deep breath, I stepped up to the podium, smoothing the pages of my speech. "Ladies and gentlemen, fellow graduates," I began, my voice steady and confident. But before I could continue, a piercing siren blared through the air. The fire alarm. Confusion rippled through the crowd. Parents stood up, craning their necks, while staff rushed to manage the situation. The entire ceremony was thrown into chaos. Back inside the school, huddled with a group of classmates, I overheard whispers. "Did you see Mrs. Thompson by the gym just before the alarm?" One of my friends asked, wide-eyed. "Yeah, she looked really flustered," another added. My stomach dropped. They weren't talking about Mrs. Thompson. They were talking about Grandma Helen. No, it couldn't be, but the seed of doubt had already been planted. Later, as the chaos settled and we were allowed back on the field to continue the ceremony, I excused myself to the restroom, needing a moment to collect my thoughts. On my way, I overheard a snippet of conversation that stopped me cold. "Just saying, sometimes these kids need to be knocked down a peg or two." The voice drifted out from a slightly ajar janitor's closet. Curiosity pulled me closer. I peeked inside, and there she was, Helen, pacing with her phone pressed to her ear. My heart sank as I caught the tail end of her words. Yes, well, Emily was getting a bit too proud of herself. What's a little alarm compared to a lesson in humility? Her tone was casual, dismissive, completely at odds with the weight of her words. My stomach churned with a mix of anger and heartbreak. My own grandmother had sabotaged my big moment, all because she thought I needed to be humbled. Tears stung my eyes as I backed away, the betrayal settling like a stone in my chest. How could she? Why would she do this to me? Those questions swirled in my mind as I made my way back to the field. The remainder of the ceremony blurred into a haze. The joy of the day was tarnished, and as I looked at Helen, seated with her face unreadable, I knew things between us would never be the same. After the graduation fiasco, I was overwhelmed with emotions. Betrayal cut the deepest. I couldn't stop thinking about how Helen, someone who was supposed to love and support me, had done something so cruel. I needed answers. The next few days became a mission. I spoke to everyone who had been near the gym before the alarm went off. Several classmates mentioned seeing Helen nearby, alone, and looking unusually agitated. My friend Jenna, who had been backstage, even recalled Helen lingering near the fire alarm panel, claiming she was looking for the restroom. With these accounts, I went to the school's security office and asked to see the CCTV footage from that day. What I saw confirmed my worst fears. There was Helen, clear as day, pulling the fire alarm. Every piece of evidence hardened my resolve. This wasn't a prank. It was a deliberate act meant to ruin one of the most important moments of my life. That evening, I confronted Helen at home. The evidence was laid out before us, undeniable. "Why?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper, thick with the weight of betrayal. Helen's face was a mix of defiance and something unreadable. "You were getting too full of yourself, Emily," she said, crossing her arms. "Someone had to show you that the world doesn't revolve around you. By humiliating me in front of everyone?" My voice cracked, rising with disbelief and hurt. "That's how you teach humility?" For a moment, Helen faltered. A flicker of remorse crossed her face. I may have gone too far," she admitted, her voice softer now. "I didn't mean to hurt you like this." But her apology rang hollow. It wasn't just about what she did. It was about why she did it. She had undermined me, not out of love or concern, but out of some twisted need to put me in my place. Supported by my mom, who had always been my pillar of strength, and friends who stood by me, I made my decision. I could have just let this go. Some wounds cut too deep to heal with words alone. "I can't accept your apology, Grandma," I said, my voice steady. Despite the turmoil inside, I managed to say, "Not this time. You need to reflect on why you felt this was necessary." As I turned away, I felt a bittersweet mix of sadness and relief. It was, perhaps, the hardest decision I had ever made. But it was necessary for my own growth. In that moment, I wasn't just walking away from Grandma Helen. I was stepping into a future where I understood my worth, where no one's jealousy could ever dictate my value again. The fallout from Grandma Helen's actions was swift and severe. News of her sabotage spread like wildfire through our family and the community. The whispers did their work, and within days, everyone knew what she had done at my graduation. The disappointment and shock reverberated in every conversation. Every glance directed her way at community gatherings. Helen soon noticed the cold shoulders, the disapproving looks. Invitations that once filled her calendar dried up, and friends she had known for decades suddenly found reasons not to meet. Her social circle, once a source of pride and comfort, crumbled beneath the weight of her betrayal. The very community she had invested so much in now shunned her, and the consequences of her manipulation extended far beyond just our family. Even her small business suffered. Longtime customers began withdrawing their patronage after hearing about the graduation incident. Trust, the foundation of any successful business, had been eroded. Soon, Helen's financial stability was as compromised as her social standing, leaving her facing an uncertain and lonely future. Meanwhile, the school, recognizing the injustice of what had happened, organized a second graduation ceremony. This time, the stands were filled with solidarity and support, not just for me, but for the principle that no student's moment should ever be stolen from them. As I stood at the podium, ready to deliver the valedictorian speech I had worked so hard on, I felt a surge of strength and independence. The words flowed naturally, speaking not only of academic achievements, but of resilience, community, and the courage to stand against toxicity. I stand here today not just as a graduate, but as a testament to what we can overcome when we stand together, I declared, my voice ringing clear across the field. The applause that followed wasn't just for my academic success, but for the journey I had taken to get there. Looking out at the crowd, I saw faces beaming back at me, their smiles and tears a balm to the wounds Helen's betrayal had left. My mom's eyes were bright with pride, not because of the accolades I had earned, but because of the person I had become. This Rito ceremony was more than just the culmination of my high school career. It was a celebration of personal victory, of rising above the toxic forces that had tried to undermine my achievements. With my diploma in hand and a future full of promise, I stepped off the stage, ready to embrace a life no longer defined by the shadows of others' insecurities. As I moved forward, the past, along with its pain and betrayal, began to recede, leaving behind valuable lessons and a resolve strengthened by adversity. Helen's fate became a stark reminder of where bitterness and envy can lead, a path I was determined never to walk. Today, I look forward to a future filled with possibilities, supported by those who believe in lifting each other up, not tearing each other down. As for Helen, her journey was hers alone to reckon with, a distant echo in the life I was building anew. Now here's a question for you all. Do you think it's ever justified to take drastic actions, like Helen did, if you believe someone needs to be brought down a notch? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below.